Hey guys, Paul here. So today I wanted to talk about paid Yu-Gi-Oh coaching and other learning resources and whether or not they are worth it to get. So the reason why I'm talking about this is because it's been a bit of a hot topic within the online Yu-Gi-Oh community over the last week or two. And so I thought I would just weigh in. Obviously, I should say right out of the gate, what exactly is Yu-Gi-Oh coaching or Yu-Gi-Oh learning resources? Well, basically, there are a handful of top level Yu Gi Oh players. We're defining that as people who have won YCS events or consistently top YCS events and things like that. And basically, sometimes it'll be like a single player, other times it might be a group of players, but they will basically make Medifi resources available to people. And this has actually been a thing even on like Patreon in the past, but I think Medifi has kind of become the go-to website for it because it's used for a lot of different types of coaching for gaming and even other stuff really. So yeah, most of the time it's on Medifi and it's paid, and you can typically like join their community maybe for free just to like see what other people are talking about and stuff. But you will have to pay if you want to get the direct one-on-one coaching or maybe access to a combo spreadsheet. And in fact, those are sort of the two different types of coaching or categories of like Yu-Gi-Oh coaching, we'll say. Things are either like, a just static resource, which is to say, here is maybe a spreadsheet of all of the combos that you can play with the Malice deck post Alliance Insight in this kind of current format, right? They've labbed out all the different combos, all the different inboards, different lines that you can take and options that you have, and just sort of condense it down into a spreadsheet. And so it'll be like, if you start with these two cards, here's what you can do. If you start with these three cards, here's what you can do. Here's an alternate thing you can do if you start with these cards. And so it'll be available to you. And then the second thing would be paying for just like one-on-one coaching time, which could include, them like walking you through deck building, walking you through tournament prep, dueling with you. It could be sort of a general Yu-Gi-Oh thing. It could be a specific deck thing. It could be a certain like one tournament that you're prepping for thing. And yeah. I should also probably throw out, I guess, the disclaimer that I myself have never done any of the paid Yu-Gi-Oh! Medifi coaching things. Funny side story, I've been offered to do it. Like, Medifi reached out to me and they were like, yeah, do you want to do Yu-Gi-Oh! Coaching? And I'm like, no, I don't think I'm really good enough to do that whole thing. But right off the bat, I should say, like, because I have not done it, I cannot actually provide like a great definition of like, here's why you should or shouldn't do it. So what I'll instead do is just talk about it in general and what I think, from a sort of distance as an outsider, what that might look like and whether or not I would ever consider doing it. So first of all, a lot of people talk about like, are people paywalling Yu-Gi-Oh knowledge? Is that like a good thing? And by that, I'm just mean like, okay, should you pay like $30 or $40 or whatever to see the Malice spreadsheet, to see the Memento spreadsheet? There's a deck that's doing well right now, and if you want to pick it up and quickly learn it, then knowing all these combos would be good for you. I think that the thing with like these Yu-Gi-Oh spreadsheets of combos is that you could just learn these yourself, right? Like, I think that if you sit down with a deck and play it and you get a lot of experience, or you have a playtesting group or whatever, or even maybe just like watch combos and stuff on YouTube, you can pick up on a lot of the bread and butter basics and even some of the more complex combos, I'm sure, if you just play the deck yourself. So it's for that reason that I'm a little bit more apprehensive about maybe, like, I don't know that I would advise anybody to buy a spreadsheet of combos for a deck, because I feel like that information tends to be pretty, like, it's available if you kind of just want to work for it. Like, all that is, in my opinion, is like, it's just raw, like, static info. You know what I mean? Now, the thing that I will say is it will get you a head start. And I think for a lot of people, coaching can be a useful, or, well, we'll get more into coaching in a second, but like just a spreadsheet resource can be a good way to sort of skip to, I don't want to say the front of the line, but skip the beginner steps. Because if you were just starting to play something like a deck, or really I guess this could even apply to like a fighting game or something like that, you likely just want to kind of get right to the more competitive stuff. You want to have those fundamentals down fast. And so this could help you sort of, jumpstart that, kind of take a shortcut, right? It seems like it's something that could certainly add up. Like, if you were paying for the spreadsheets for all of the different decks in a given format, like let's say they're each, $35, I think is the price that I saw on Medifi, for one of these classes. And it's like, they're all like, 30 or $35. And like, there's maybe 4 or 5 different viable decks. You want to learn them all. Yeah, that price can add up pretty fast. So that, but I see why a person would do it. Would I personally pay for a spreadsheet? Absolutely not. For me personally, as a Yu-Gi-Oh player, I am way more about like learning decks myself and, just picking it up, experimenting, trying out cards myself, doing a lot of reps on my own, and just talking with the people around me. And maybe even getting advice from the people around me that I play, at locals, regionals, whatever. Obviously, you have to, I guess at that point, the onus is more on you to filter out, what is good practice and bad practice, what is good advice and bad advice. But for me, I tend to have a lot of confidence in my picks when I go into like playing in events. Like I want to just, because I've played with the deck personally, I find it's like easier to, I guess, recall a certain combo or a certain play or a way to out something because I've like done it myself. I think if I just was to learn it on a spreadsheet, I would have a tougher time recalling that. But that's also just like one learning style. Some people really like the more rigid, like, set in stone. Like if you learn all of these things and rehearse all of these things, it will make you better and like it will be something that you can kind of reach for when you need it. So I am not a big spreadsheets fan. I'm not a big spreadsheets guy. I don't think that spreadsheets really encapsulate how Yu-Gi-Oh is played, especially because it can be so dynamic and like game states can be even just slightly different than what a spreadsheet maybe told you. And so unless it's extremely thorough, and maybe they are, I think that just having that like that knowledge yourself and kind of like experiencing it yourself, learning it yourself, tends to pay off more in the long run. So I wouldn't really advise somebody to get that, but obviously if you're curious, then you've probably made up your mind. I'm not saying it's like wrong to get it, but you know what I mean. Now the coaching thing is a sort of different matter because I feel like this is something that I would be a lot more interested in, particularly if I was a sort of a newer player or like an intermediate player who's trying to make the next step. Because for me, I think mindset is something that can be useful to learn. Like for instance, getting, information from like Paulo Gonçalves or like Pac or Jesse Cotton about how they approach deck building like mentally and how they approach game states mentally, how they prepare for events. I think that would be like pretty useful. That would be something that I'd be a little bit more interested in doing. Now, for me, I have not done it and probably will not do it because I'm kind of like, over my own personal Yu-Gi-Oh hill, right? Like I'm not trying to win a YCS. And I think that some people look at this from a distance and go like, what? Like you're paying for Yu-Gi-Oh coaching? Like that's stupid. What the hell? But I think that for some people, if winning a YCS or trying to just do well, just improve your performance in general is important, this would probably be where I would look more so. Like getting playtesting practice or just getting one-on-one coaching with some of the very best people. I think if you take that time and you make it really valuable and meaningful, then there's more to the coaching side, I think, than the spreadsheet side, at least in my opinion. So while I would say like, this is something where you have to kind of consider the cost benefit analysis for yourself, at least that's the one that I would be more interested in doing. Now, there's another topic that I kind of wanted to cover around this, which is just like, I sort of got into it with the whole like charging for spreadsheets thing is like, is paywalling knowledge like worthwhile? Is that like a good or a bad ethical practice? I think like ethically, I don't love it, but I just don't think that it's like really worth, chastising these people over because there are some people who want the service and there are some people who deem it worthwhile. And so for the people who are willing to pay, who am I to tell you what to do with your pockets, right? Like, it's your money and you know what you want. So I think that a person charging for that isn't a bad thing. And then also in almost every sort of truly competitive thing, there's some type of coaching available. This applies across like esports and even like regular sports. There are people who technically pay for coaching for sports that they might never actually like get paid to do. Like, if you get like paid extra lessons in school, that's one thing. If you get paid extra lessons in like baseball or, football, like some sort of a private lesson in soccer, you might not ever go pro and get paid for it, and you might technically not make that money back. But I do think that the world is a little bit more complex than just making your money back off of things. However, Yu-Gi-Oh does get a little bit tricky because, like we all know, Yu-Gi-Oh prizing is not maybe the best thing in the world. So, like if we talk about, traveling to a YCS event, is that worthwhile? Is the prize support worth anything? And like it's, in many cases, the Yu-Gi-Oh's prize support is weaker, so it does come down to more like, it's more of a personal goals thing, a love of the game thing, maybe even like a clout thing. I know some people really get, they're just into that whole idea of like being a top player, being associated with top players, being seen as, very good. I always hesitate to like, I don't want to judge people for their different reasons why they would play this game and do all that stuff. So all I will say is this, I think if you want to pay for it, you just really have to make sure that you are also the sort of person who is going out to these events. I don't think that like a first timer, like I just started playing Yu-Gi-Oh 2 weeks ago, needs to be paying for anything, especially if you don't have like your calendar kind of filled out with like regionals and YCS events, and like, that you're going to be taking this seriously. Because even then, like we said, the payoff monetarily probably is not going to be there, but like, competition's a hard thing to explain. So yeah, I guess the only like other hot take that I maybe have around this whole thing is probably just that the people, it's not even a hot take. It's just sort of an opinion. Is like, I think that for a lot of the players offering this coaching services, they're kind of trying to subsidize how playing competitive Yu-Gi-Oh works. Like a lot of times, we talked about how the prize support's not good and the travel's really expensive. This is kind of the only way that if you're a top player, you can maybe make it a career. As close to a career as competitive Yu-Gi-Oh can be is, making some of the money back from the time that you put into playtesting, sharing that with other people and like getting some income from it. I don't think is very bad. That's not all that different from Yu-Gi tubing. So I would not say that there's really anything scummy or deceptive going on. So yeah. And worst comes to worst, if you are truly curious about it, you can just, pay, try it once, see what one of these spreadsheets is like, or pay for like an hour of, like just talking, testing, whatever with like X top player who offers it, and just see what it's like. And if it doesn't feel like it's for you, then at least now you know. And if it does help you out and you find that it sort of changes your mentality, then it's like a win-win. I guess it's just not as big of a deal as maybe people are making it out to be, and that it just comes down to like what you want out of the game and all that. So yeah, there's my sort of boring diplomatic answer about whether or not you should pay for Yu-Gi-Oh coaching. I'm also, again, probably not the best person to even talk about this because, like I said, I haven't actually done the coaching and I don't really plan to, but it's just fun to talk about these Yu-Gi-Oh things and more importantly, hear what other people have to say about them. So you can let me know down below in the comments. Would you pay for Yu-Gi-Oh coaching? What do you think of the different pricing structures that you have seen on Medifi and how that all works? Do you think it's a scam, or would it actually maybe be worthwhile for the people who want it? And maybe should Yu-Gi-Oh just improve its prize support, but that's a different conversation, but I definitely think they should. Anyway, okay, that's going to be it. I will see you guys in the next video. Fast turn.